Police officers of Reddit, what was your they could have gotten away with it if they had kept their mouth shut moment? I'm a police officer in the UK. It was about 2 AM, which meant street lights were off. As I was patrolling, I saw a vehicle drive with only his side lights on. Spun around, pulled them over. I asked for his license and it's a provisional. His co-pilot was 20 and didn't have a license and the vehicle didn't have L plates. This means he's driving otherwise in accordance of his license and also driving with no insurance, because as if he did have any insurance, driving otherwise in accordance normally invalidates it. So, I got him in the back of my car to speak to him, start writing out a traffic ticket for no insurance and was going to seize the car and let him off for driving otherwise in accordance. However, as I am writing the ticket, he says to me I shouldn't even be driving this car. My mate doesn't even know I took it. I just kinda pause. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, my mate lives just up the road and I was round his. He fell asleep so I thought I'd just take the car and go for a ride. Right. I get another unit to go to the address, and the suspect's friend confirms he's not happy for him to be having the car, especially now that it's being seized. So now, instead of 6 points and a £200 fine and a pissed off friend, he gets nicked for TWOC, taking a vehicle without the owner's consent, driving otherwise in accordance of his license and for no insurance. He's been to court and received 6 points and just shy of £1,000 in fines and costs, as well as a pissed off mate and spent a night in a cell. Not me but my dad. My dad was in an army helicopter unit assigned to local police to search for marijuana plants being grown in the rural parts of my state in the 1980s. One day, they found a decently sized gaggle of marijuana plants located just off the property of a farm. They landed the helicopter on the farm and talked to the farmer, asking him if he knew that someone was growing weed near his property. The farmer got scared and immediately confessed that they were his plants. He was arrested by the police. Oddly enough, if the farmer would have played dumb, the army and the police were just going to remove the weed and leave. Not a cop. I had a roommate in college that was no friend of mine. He got in a fight at a bar and was kicked out. He tried to go back into the bar and got thrown out again, but a cop happened to be driving by the second time. Cop told him to relax or he was going to be arrested. He told the cop to arrest him. Cop handcuffs him and puts him in the back of the cop car. Roommate then started banging on the window. Cop then recuffed him with his hands behind his back. Roommate's stupidity carried on for the next couple months. He was supposed to go to court over the whole thing, but didn't show up. Police showed up at his job, cuffed him and brought him to court. Judge told him he would have just received a slap on the wrist, but he now had to send him to jail for a couple days. He was scheduled to report to jail a week or two later, and he didn't show up for that either. By this time, he disappeared. I never saw the guy again. Okay, so we had a DUI accident where a guy kept driving straight into the woods into a tree because his GPS was predicting a future street. He walked back to his hotel room and left his check-in papers in the car. So we go to the hotel and go to his room and knock on the door. He did not have to answer, but he did. He was pretty clearly drunk. I asked him if he had anything to drink since the accident. He did not have to answer, or he could have told us that he drank after the accident. He said, no, I haven't had anything to drink since the accident. And where I'm from you have 24 hours to report a property damage only accident. So it wasn't even a hit and run. So as I'm locking the guy up, he tells me he's a lawyer. I told him I hope you're not a defense attorney. But in his defense, he was drunk. Not a cop but a witness. During college, my friends and I would hang out outside and smoke hookah. Frequently we would invite strangers who passed by to join, or campus police would casually chat with us as they made their rounds. So one time a group of freshmen walked past and asked to join. After about 15 minutes the campus police car rolls up and the freshmen get visibly nervous. We tell them calm down, the cops are chill. As soon as the cop gets out of the car, one freshman bolts and makes it about 20 feet before the cop tackles him. We all clap and heckle the kid. Upon searching him, the cop finds a bunch of weed. Then he says, "You realize prior to running, I had no reason to be suspicious. I just wanted to talk to my friends over there," and points at us. The cop ends up writing a ticket and sends him off. This is going to be buried but it's funny, so here. I was a cop on an Air Force base in Alaska. 3 guys robbed our class 6 store, liquor, and we responded to the store but got caught in traffic at a light on the way. So we were sitting there with lights and sirens on trying to get people to move out of the way when the back door to the car ahead of us opens and a guy gets out and goes spread eagle against his trunk. Confused, we get out to see what was up and realize that these were the robbers. I was asked to help keep peace while 2 probation officers searched a guy's house. Before everyone gets upset, in most jurisdictions, you have to submit to a search of your person and your home if you're on probation. During the search, a PO lifted the probationer's mattress and said monotonously, "Wow." The probationer got upset and said, "Yeah, it's fucking meth and a gun. Arrest me. I don't give a fuck." Turns out the PO found a huge dildo, but after the guy opened his mouth, the PO lifted the mattress more and found a bunch of individually wrapped grams of meth and a Glock 17. The PO said that seeing the dildo was enough for him to ignore the mattress, but because the guy said something, he kept looking. That's guy's attitude, and his need to open his mouth got him 10 years in prison. The absolute best example of this has to be Dennis Rader, aka the BTK killer. For those of you unfamiliar with BTK, it stood for bind, torture, kill, and he was a notorious serial killer spanning several decades from 1974 until 1991, and he's responsible for at least 10 murders. Anyway, BTK went silent for a long time and nobody had heard anything up until 2004 when he started sending in letters to the police and media again. In 2005 he sends a letter to the police asking if he sends in a floppy disk will they be able to trace it. They tell him no, so the doofus sends them a disk. They are able to recover metadata from a deleted Word document from the disk which contained his name and the church where he was president of their council. They were easily able to find him after that, and he was arrested and eventually given 10 consecutive life sentences. He probably could have gotten away with all those murders if he would have just stayed silent. Cop is in a gas station convenience store when an obviously hammered guy stumbles in alone. The officer looks at him and asks, "You didn't drive here, just a passenger, right?" Drunk guy confirms and then proceeds to go get into his car and start to pull away as the officer is still watching. All he had to do was go wait 5 minutes in the bathroom or walk down the street, instead got a DUI. In college, a buddy and I drove out to a house party, only for it to get busted as soon as we arrived. In attempt to show my friend how cool I was, I started antagonizing one of the officers from the passenger seat of my buddy's car that was parked on the side of the street. Telling him that I'd send him the address to the next party, that kind of thing. We go back and forth until the cop asks my friend move his car into the driveway. He asks for identification and runs my license. After about 30 minutes, he hands me a max fine ticket for a seatbelt violation. Clever bastard saw I wasn't wearing a seatbelt, so he had my friend move his car a couple feet so he could ticket me. I pulled over a strange looking dude in a lab coat and he went off about some plan to poison a bunch of rubber plants so people had to buy his synthetic brand tires or something like that.